Heretic is a first-person shooter created by Raven Software. It was released in 1994 and runs under a modified Doom engine. It's essentially a Doom clone set in a fantasy world with spells and mythical creatures. Three brothers, known as the Serpent Riders, used their immense magical powers to turn the 7 kings of Parthoris into mindless puppets, who in turn led their subjects in doing the Serpent Riders' bidding. Your objective in this game is to kill D-Sparrow, the first of the 3 Serpent Riders. Pure and simple, the gameplay follows the basic FPS formula: kill monsters, find the keys, toggle switches, and get to the end. But you replace all the guns with staves and crossbows. The game is split into 5 episodes, with each episode containing 9 levels. You start each episode with the Elven Wand, which is comparable to a pistol. Along the way, you'll pick up other magical weapons, such as the Ethereal Crossbow and the Dragon Claw. Heretic is one of the earliest first-person shooters to have an inventory system. You can carry certain items with you and use them at any time. These include a couple of health items, torches to light up dark areas, and something called a Morph Ovum, which can turn enemies into chickens that you can easily kill. If you ever become trapped or surrounded by enemies, and you can't get yourself out of that situation, using a Chaos device will teleport you back to the starting location of the level. Heretic is also one of the first games to allow the player to fly. This is done using the Wings of Wrath. The most valuable item you'll be looking out for is the Tome of Power. When activated, this item will grant your weapons a secondary attack. The Hellstaff changes from a rapid firing mode to a weapon that calls down a red rain that deals heavy damage to enemies in a small area. It also changes the Phoenix Rod from a long-range explosive weapon to a flamethrower. Not only does this greatly enhance the power of your weapons, it makes them much more cost-effective in terms of ammo consumption. Even the gauntlets of the Necromancer get another ability in the form of a life-stealing attack. But because this is an early form of inventory systems in first-person shooters, the controls are a bit clumsy by today's standards. The navigation keys are user configurable, but using an item is always done with the Enter key. Like many other first-person shooters around this time, Heretic was originally intended to be played with a keyboard only. A mouse and keyboard setup using a WASD configuration make it difficult to use inventory items. The game has a variety of monsters in its bestiary. Gargoyles and golems are the easiest to take down, but they can be dangerous in large numbers. On the other side of the spectrum are the Disciples and Ophidians, the Disciples being flying wizards that have a deadly ranged attack. The Ophidians are the ones who look like mermen that carry tridents. They fire a volley of energy balls, and they also have a harder-hitting fireball attack. Almost every monster has at least 2 forms of attack. Some monsters will appear in a ghost form. These are basically transparent versions of monsters that are difficult to see, and they also become immune to projectile attacks, such as those from the Phoenix Rod, as well as the side bolts from the Ethereal Crossbow. This can add to the difficulty and challenge, as it takes time to switch to an appropriate weapon. Thanks to the great level design for this game, the rooms and hallways usually have sufficient space to maneuver when trying to dodge attacks. This means a very skilled player has very little chance of taking any damage. Ambushes are also frequently utilized in the level design, usually triggered by picking up a key or using a switch. Once triggered, a wall opens up and monsters flood the area. Alternatively, they can be teleported in. This keeps the game action-packed and the player on their toes. Great level design not only contributes to the gameplay, but also to the graphics. There was a lot of attention to detail in the environment, and it shows with its beautiful stained glass windows and rows of columns and pillars. Many levels feature open environments as opposed to dark, claustrophobic interiors, but the game still has those for good measure. Various doodads populate the levels, ranging from wooden barrels and light sources to hanging corpses that suggest torture was involved. The monsters are very detailed considering the fact that they are 2D sprites. Of course, beware of pixelation. The game makes great use of sound effects to provoke the player's senses. You'll occasionally hear an evil laughter in the background, and the disciples' arcane chants are actually messages played backwards that say, "Destroy the heretic." Your character has an evil laugh when he picks up a new weapon, and when you kill a monster, they make a very satisfying dying sound. It might not sound like much by today's standards, but the overall sound is still top-notch. Even the MIDI music contributes to the atmosphere of the game. It has a fast-paced fantasy soundtrack that makes you feel the presence of evil, perfect for vanquishing mythical creatures. The first-person shooter genre was the bandwagon game developers wanted to be on in the mid-90s. Raven Software jumped in with both feet with Heretic. The original edition of Heretic was only available through mail order and contained only 3 episodes. A retail version appeared later. This was distributed by GT Interactive and was called Heretic: Shadow of the Serpent Riders. This version featured 2 additional episodes, both of which were significantly more difficult than the first 3. Raven Software was kind enough to release a content patch that updated the original game to include the extra episodes. Players could download it from their website free of charge. In early 1999, the source code for Heretic was released. This allowed fans to port the game to Linux and other modern operating systems. One such port is the cross-platform Doomsday engine. It took advantage of OpenGL to render each level as a true 3D environment, complete with texture filtering and smooth frame rates. Controls can be changed at will to take advantage of modern hardware such as gaming mice and keyboards. Optional resource packs are available that provide high-resolution textures and replace the 2D sprites with 3D models. Overall, I would consider Heretic to be an average game. There's really not much to say about it. Consider it a Doom clone with magical weapons. It offered nothing that made it stand out from the crowd, but it met the requirements for a good game. For its time, it had decent graphics, respectable audio, and simply fun and enjoyable gameplay mechanics. It gets the job done, but it does not go above and beyond. I can only recommend Heretic to gamers with a sense of nostalgia, or to those who are just curious to see what PC gaming was all about in the 90s. Heretic is now available on Steam. You're not missing much if you choose not to play it, but if you decide to play the game, I'm sure you'll enjoy it.